Tariffs, would you also direct agencies to study the impact they would have on prices in the U.S.?
No, there's nothing to study. There's nothing to study. It's going to go well. The United States is going to become...
Donald every day on the campaign trail. We warned you, we said it. Loud and clear. Donald Trump, the oldest man ever elected to the presidency, is not well. His mental state, his physical stamina, his grip on reality, it's all slipping. And today, during a press conference that left even his most loyal supporters uneasy, that truth became impossible to ignore. Trump stumbled. He mumbled, his words slurred together in a disjointed mess, as if he were grasping for thoughts that kept slipping through his fingers. He couldn't stay on track, couldn't find a coherent direction. It wasn't just a bad moment, it was a glaring red flag. And yet the mainstream media, so quick to scrutinize every misstep from Biden, barely batted an eye. Why the double standard? Why the silence? We've been sounding the alarm for months. Trump's decline isn't just about age. It's about his ability to lead, to think clearly, to function at the level this country deserves. But while the media obsesses over Biden's every stumble, they've turned a blind eye to Trump's unraveling. So today we're doing their job for them. Before we dive into the shocking footage from today's press conference, I need to ask you for a favor. If you're as concerned about this as we are, hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, your support isn't just appreciated, it's essential. It's what allows us to keep shining a light on the truths others refuse to see. Now let's talk about what happened today. Trump didn't just struggle, he faltered in a way that should concern every American. But this isn't just about his mental state, it's about the lies, the broken promises, the betrayal of the very people who put their faith in him. Before we get into the disturbing details of Trump's deterioration, let's take a moment to revisit Hakeem Jeffrey's powerful words about the MAGA movement and how Trump has betrayed his most loyal supporters. Because this isn't just about one man's decline, it's about the damage he's leaving in his wake. Stay with us, this is a story you won't hear anywhere else. That grocery prices were going to decline on day one of this administration. On January 20th, grocery prices were going to decline. Why hasn't that happened? In fact, costs are going up, they're not going down as it relates to groceries, housing, consumer goods, and insurance. Republicans made a lot of promises last year. They spent a lot of time talking about lowering the high cost of living while running away from Project 2025 as if it didn't exist. This year, Republicans have spent all of their time implementing the most extreme parts of Project 2025 and have done nothing, not Ada, as it relates to the high cost of living. In fact, the Republican budget plan, which represents a betrayal of the American middle class and all those who aspire to be part of the middle class, will hurt working class Americans, hurt middle class Americans, and hurt everyday Americans, children, seniors, and veterans by devastating Medicaid. The Republican Party a few weeks ago promised to love and cherish Medicaid, cutting Medicaid by close to $1 trillion is an example of loving and cherishing Medicaid. It's an extraordinary statement that was made, and Republicans are doing the exact opposite in their budget markup right now. Let's be clear, Donald Trump was never focused on the promises he made. Not during the campaign, not during his presidency, and certainly not now. He never cared, not about costs, not about prices, and certainly not about the people he swore to represent his entire career, both in business and in politics. has been a masterclass in self-interest. And as president he broke every promise he ever made, but if his betrayal of the American people was predictable, what's happening now is something we couldn't have fully anticipated, though we saw the warning signs. Trump isn't just failing to deliver on his promises, he's failing to hold himself together. His mental began to show earlier during a state visit with the Prime Minister of India. That's when things started to fall apart. But before we get to that shocking moment, let's take a step back. Trump's broken promises aren't just a betrayal. They're a pattern he never intended to lower costs for working families. He never planned to put America first. His entire presidency was a performance, a spectacle designed to enrich himself and his inner circle, and now as the walls close in, he's losing the ability to keep up the act. In the clip we're about to show you, you'll see the beginning of the end. Trump standing beside one of the world's most powerful leaders, struggling to maintain his composure. His words falter, his focus wavers. It's a chilling preview of what was to come, a press conference where he completely lost control. This isn't just about politics. It's about the toll that power, corruption, and unchecked ego take on a person, and it's about the consequences for a nation that put its faith in a man who never deserved it. Stay with us. What you're about to see is more than a political moment. It's a reckoning we had then called China, and China was very open to it, and then the hit, and then we had a rigged election. Now there was no rigged election. Now we have an election that was too big to rig. That's what my whole theme was, too big to rig, and they tried. But they didn't pull it off. This was just the beginning of when things got weird for Donald Trump, and let's be honest, we've seen this before. Whenever he starts talking about vengeance, whenever he drifts into the past, that's when the anger takes over, and when the anger takes over, he loses control completely. That's exactly what happened during this press conference with the Prime Minister of India. On the surface, it was supposed to be about the relationship between the two countries, a diplomatic moment, a chance to show leadership on the world stage, but Trump, he couldn't hold it together. Saying he was talking about it is giving him too much credit. What he did was something else entirely. It was disjointed, erratic, and at times downright unsettling. He veered off script, his words tangled in a web of anger and confusion. It wasn't a speech, it was a meltdown. And here's the thing, this isn't just about one bad moment, it's about a pattern. Trump's obsession with the past, his thirst for vengeance, his inability to let go of grudges. It's all catching up to him, and when it does, he unravels right in front of us. You need to see this for yourself. What he said or tried to say during that press conference is something you won't forget. It's raw, it's unfiltered, and it's a stark reminder of why so many of us have been sounding the alarm about his mental state. So before we dive into the footage, let me ask you this: how much longer can we ignore what's happening? How much longer can we pretend this is normal? Check out what he had to say and ask yourself, is this the man we want leading the free world framework we are announcing today? The United States and India are also joining forces to ensure that artificial intelligence and other advanced technologies are developed by the two of the most, really true of the most advanced nations are intellectually and otherwise technologically anywhere in the world. There's nobody very much closer. We have an incredible relationship there, and this is where it seems to be heading. And artificial intelligence complex, a very complex subject, but it seems to be where people want to be and they want to go. And we're leading right now by a lot, but other people will try to catch us. I don't know if they're going to be able So we're going to make it available. We're going to make tremendous amounts of electricity available. We're going to let other people that are buying the electricity make their own electric generation plants, and we've never done this in our country, but we're going to get it done very quickly. Lee Zeldin and his group are going to get the approvals in very rapid form. I just wanted to raise this because what we're talking about here is efforts that are trying to end a long-standing bipartisan understanding about our strength as a global leader and what we are also seeing, and this is something that just feels so personal, is just the demonization of public servant. We can have a debate about foreign aid, but we can do it without demonizing the people who has sworn an oath to this country. Many of them right now working in difficult and dangerous places. Some of them don't know how they're going to get back home right now because of how quickly all of this had been shut off. And what it really just shakes around the world when I hear from leaders in other countries is they say, what is the value of the American handshake right now? And I think that has been detrimentally affected and really are negatively affected over the course of the last couple weeks, and with that I'll yield back. Mr. President, I rise today because eat about whether or not I'm keeping up with their health and that they're exercising, and like most families I can tell you it's tough to know that you're always doing the best thing for your kids, but like most families we do what we can. My wife and I, we try our very best, but we don't have all the answers. How many parents out there when your kid gets sick and it's too late in the night to find a way to call the doctor or the nurse, you're trying to figure out where to turn to for information. Where do we go when it is that we feel like we reach the limits of our own personal knowledge and we need